Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me, and we're going to start off on a positive note for 2025. I kid. This is probably one of the most negative videos I could make to start the year, but I think it will further explain why I'm maybe switching gears a little bit on this channel and going to be providing you with less betting content. And it's because my limits are absolutely abysmal. And so that's the video today. I'm going to walk through all the sports books that I have available to me. And we're going to talk about the limits that I have at each book. Now, a couple of things. One, I'm getting a haircut in a week. I realize it's looking pretty disheveled. Two, I'm still overcoming a little bit of whatever upper respiratory situation I had. My wife and I had a complete lazy day. She hates lazy days. Every day in my eyes could be a lazy day. My wife cannot stand them. This is probably the first day in 5 years outside of COVID era times where we sat around, we watched football, we did a puzzle, we played with our kid, our multiple board games, right? Like that's the kind of thing we did today. She can't stand it, right? She wants to be up and going. So I did have some time to work on this video, and so we're going to talk about it today. Now, here's some background because it's very important. The limits that I have incurred for the better half of 4 years are because of these things. So I took no precautions with these accounts. Some people say you can salvage an account by betting parlays, by mixing up the style of bets, by avoiding error lines, that kind of thing. I didn't do that. I arbed heavy, I played error lines, and I took no precautions. So I'm not going to say that I asked for these limits, but I definitely didn't make it seem like I was recreational. We'll just put it like that. These are the 9 books that we're going to talk about. I have these books available. These are the books that have been so kind as to take my money, or I have taken from them in the past 4 years. You may have different books. Now, keep in mind, there are books like BETRIVERS who are provided odds by a larger group called Canby, and Canby works with other books like Ballybet, Unibet. So some of these limits will transfer across different brands, okay? But a lot of these people are independent of each other, and you'll see that when it comes down to the limits. So what I need you to understand and how we're going to walk through this is limits vary by market, first of all, and by time. So if you bet an NBA prop, say an hour before tip-off versus a day before tip-off, you're going to have 2 different markets. The closer to time that the game begins, usually the higher the limit. That is because books are more secure or more confident in the price that they've set. So they're allowing you to get more down. It also varies by market. So mainline spreads and money lines are going to be bigger limits traditionally. Player props are going to be less in terms of limits traditionally. All these examples that I've provided, and I'm going to provide you a college football spread, an NBA money line, a college football player prop, and an NBA player prop, because I want you to see the difference of all of these different markets. And I want you to know that I bet these at 10 o'clock today. Okay. And I'm muting my phone because I always forget to do that because I'm an imbecile. Okay. These were placed or tested at 10 a.m. today. So the college football game kicked off at 1, so pretty close to game time, probably maximum limits in that capacity, but the NBA was for tonight. So I think the NBA limits do not represent my true limit, but they represent when I would possibly be making a bet. It's not unreasonable to think that people go to the bathroom, first bathroom break of their workday, and lock in a bet on the John, all right? So this is FanDuel. And I'll just say, FanDuel is the most generous book. Now, there was a time, and it was last year, where my NCAA football limits were 1% because I hit an error line. They have raised them. This is 10% limits. FanDuel has a limiting tier system where it's like 1%, 5%, 10%, 22.5%, 50%, 100%, as far as I know. This is 10%. Although I believe they've changed something where they're allowing you higher than 10% on main lines. That's not what this video is about. Don't quote me on that. The point is, I could get down 10 grand to on Arizona's spread. That's crazy. Okay, for this day and age, that's crazy. Good for FanDuel. They're not scared. They're confident in this line. Now, I should have hit submit because they covered. Detroit, I can win $1,000. Okay, I put the 2 wins up here. So because these photos, it would be so, I had to crop. I wanted to make this as visually appealing as possible. this was like a minus 112 or minus 120. And so I could, if you plugged in this number, it wins 10,000. It's $10,000 profit. So the numbers you're going to see up here is what I can profit on each bet. So Arizona spread, a mainline college football spread, I can profit 10 grand. That's good. No complaints. A college football player touchdown, golden to score. I can profit $150. It's a little lower than I would love. I think 500 is probably fairly reasonable. But I'll take it considering what you'll see coming down the pipeline here. Detroit money line 1,000. I think that's a little low for an NBA main line. I would like to see a higher limit there. I think that's a little bit stingy. And then Jalen Duren's rebounds are to profit 100. I believe as the game gets closer, it will go up to 150. I believe at tip-off, I can profit 150. So those limits do increase. Now, if you're expecting this to get better, it's not. This is by far and away the best. Let's go to DraftKings. DraftKings on Arizona State plus 13.5, I can win 300. Golden's touchdown, I can win 50. Detroit money line, I can win 80. Let me say that again. On an NBA money line bet, like a pretty sharp market, a market that is heavily bet and should be able to set a line accurately, I'm limited to an $80 win, $101 to win 182. And if that wasn't bad enough, a player prop, minus 115 juice on a player prop, $7.47 max. I can win $6.50. Now, I will say this also. This is the worst possible limited tier at DraftKings, as far as I know. There are tiers higher than this that are still limited, and then there are unlimited tiers. I believe they only have, this is my experience, I could be wrong. I believe they have 3 tiers. They have a house maximum, just like what they would call an unlimited account. They have a semi-limited account, which is probably about triple this on most instances. And then they have this. Again, don't quote me on that. That's just an idea. So this is as bad as it gets. So if you're wondering, why don't you give out plays? For what? Right? Like, I'm going to do player props if I'm going to give out play. And by the time my same game parlay limits are like $2, right? So not so good. ESPNBET is 100 to win on a spread, so the worst so far. Golden TD is about what DraftKings is. I can win $40. Detroit money line. I have higher limits on ESPN than DraftKings, which is insane to me. I can win $100 there, and player prop as well. I can win 25 on ESPNBet. So kind of the middle of the pack here for these top 3 books. I would call them the top 3 books right now. A lot of people may throw in Caesars. We'll talk about Caesars in a little bit. Hard Rock, a little surprised. Some of these were higher than I thought. Some books I kind of just shut down. Hard Rock, 75 to win on Arizona spread, 25 to win on Golden's TD, 100 to win on a money line, and 20 to win on a rebound. So still, ESPN and Hard Rock are allowing me to get more action down than DraftKings, which is just unbelievable to me. Okay, moving over to BetMGM was probably the first book to limit me, and one that was notorious for error lines when this was all up and running, consistently made mistakes and could consistently be beaten at their mistakes. And they've made people pay for it. So I can win 49 on a spread, 24 on a touchdown, 48 on a money line, and less than $10. It's like they went to a threshold of 50 and then they said, nah, not quite. 25, nah, not quite. 50, nah, not quite. 10, nah, not quite. Okay? Don't use MGM. There's no reason to use MGM, but I say that, and then I look, and I'm like, it's basically DraftKings. It's worse. It's actually about half, but it's still horrible. Okay, Fanatics. Let me just be the first to say, Fanatics gets a lot of the hate on the internet, and at this point in time, I believe these are the maximum. So far, what I've shown you, I believe, is the not on FanDuel. My FanDuel limits are 10%. Like I said, there's 2 tiers lower. DraftKings maximum limits. ESPN, I believe I'm at worst limits. Hard Rock, I'm at worst limits. BetMGM, I'm at worst limits. Fanatics, I'm also at worst limits. And these aren't bad. 200 to win on a spread. Again, this says 220. You have to keep in mind that it's minus 110. So 220 on a minus 110 profits you 200. Okay. Golden TD. This was crazy to me. And also they had a fantastic price on this. This is why you line shop. Most places had this at 130 and Fanatics had it at 170 and he scored. I should have submitted it. $47 to win 125. So they're competing with FanDuel in that way. I think also it's because of the, the hype of the game. It's a big game, and so they've raised maximums. I'll check NFL and I can report back if anyone cares, but I would imagine that the magnitude of the game had something to do with it. Pistons money line or NBA line money line, I can win 50, and then a player prop is pretty weak, $10 on all player props. So this $9 is what it technically is because it's a minus 110. But if this player prop was plus 120, I could still get $10 down to win 12. So the bottom line is I could bet $10 on a player prop. Okay, Caesars was great. They had great promos. They had a great reward system, and I was 7 stars. 7 stars is the highest tier possible. I got an all expenses paid trip to Las Vegas. They paid for my flights. They paid for my hotel. I brought friends. They paid for them. Like, they treated you right. Not months after that, I got completely shut off. And I mean, like, no warning, cut from the knees. They also have this annoying feature where they don't allow you to see your maximum bet. You can install a Google Chrome extension that will be able to go into the code source and work around and find your maximum. I didn't have that uninstalled on my laptop at the time, so I couldn't provide any examples. I will tell you this. Every time I go to place a bet, it says bet not placed, contact support, bet not placed. And I just keep moving the total lower and lower and lower. Last I looked, I couldn't get $5 down on a main line. I couldn't get 10 cents down on a player prop. So as far as I know, I am completely and utterly banned on Caesars. I was meaning to actually go in here and give you the action that I gave them up until that point. You know what? I'm going to flash it right here. And I don't know what it is. And I may say, wow, I shouldn't have shown that. Okay? I'm not going to tell you how much I made or lost. This is just the action that I gave Caesars. Now, I will say this. I believe I was down on Caesars when they cut me off. I believe I had lost money to them. Now, this was all arbitrage. So I was making money. Like, this isn't money I lost. Like, if I was down to Caesars, I was up to FanDuel or up to DraftKings, right? So it doesn't reflect how much money was made or lost. But the point is, I gave them a rather large handle, and they completely cut me off and have not restored me. So I do not use Caesars. I refuse to use Caesars. I refuse to log in. They don't tell me my max. Why am I going to sit there and have to guess and check like it's 4th grade arithmetic? I'm not doing it. Okay, BetRivers. I can win 150 on a spread, 477 on a touchdown, $10 on an NBA money line, $10 on an NBA money line, and $1 on an NBA player prop. And finally, at Bet365, who was really good for a very short time. And then I got cut off, and I haven't used them since, but I might start using them because $16.50 on a player prop isn't the worst thing I've ever seen. Might be some EV opportunities that I can just ride and not think about. $30 on a spread, $7.50 on a touchdown, $45 on an NBA money line. Not bad, considering what else we have on this list, and then $15 on the player prop. So we're going to look at some charts here. This is a chart that can help you identify each category, right? These are colored by category. So best is green, right? FanDuel wins every category, right? DraftKings is decent or second place when it comes to college football, big games, maybe even NBA money lines, but player props, one of the worst. One of the worst at NBA player props in terms of my limits, okay? One thing I will point out is Fanatics might be a sleeper book. I know I mentioned it when we were talking about it on the slide. Fanatics is competing with ESPN and DraftKings in some way. Overall, I mean, they're beating NBA player props. They're lagging a little bit behind NBA money lines. They're smoking on the touchdown, and they're fairly close on the spread, right? So BetRivers, Bet365, BetMGM, pretty much just worthless. HARDROCK, ESPN, Fanatics may be squeezable, but is the juice worth it? And it's really just down to FanDuel because DraftKings, all I'm going to really bet is player props, right? So not great, okay? Here's what I want to show you. The comparison across the books. And keep in mind, this is FanDuel. And I took it from 10,000 down to 400 so the graph wouldn't be distorted, and I took it from 1,000 down to 200 so the graph wouldn't be distorted. So the blue circles are actually wrong. They're higher up. but for the sake of visuals, it wouldn't make any sense. Okay, so this is all the books, and this is all the limits I have per Arizona spread, Golden TD, Detroit moneyline, Duran rebounds. Okay, and what I want you to really notice about this is this: the majority of the dots fall in a very specific region. Okay, they all pretty much follow each other. Like the patterns are all the same, as you'd expect. It goes mainline player prop, up, down, okay? But what I want you to notice is there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dots. And this is 4 times 9, right? But, well, I didn't include Caesars. 4 times 8, okay? So 32. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of 32 are above a number, and everything else is below. And that number is 100. Books don't want you to win more than $100. That's what I've determined. And this is not hard, fast evidence. This is not prescriptive across all sports bettors. This is my experience, but it looks like there is a trend that, even on a player prop, they don't want you to win over 50. Main line, if you're limited, you're not taking more than 100 from us on a main line, which is ridiculous, but it looks like that's what it is. If it's a player prop, you're not taking more than 50 from us. Yeah. And then in some cases, 25, right? Okay, if you look at those two right there. So, this is not like there's nothing to learn from this. This can't be it's like taxes. Like, here's what I pay in taxes. What am I going to do? Become a billionaire and avoid the find the loopholes, avoid the tax? Like, you can't do anything. Now, people do stuff, right? They get player 2s, they get player 3s, they get player 6s, they get player 8s, right? They get 6 different phones, and they get Mint Mobile, and they log into their uncle's account, and their uncle for an everyday sports bettor who wants to do this, it's not it's unreasonable to expect someone to go through to that length. It can be done. It can be lucrative. I know people who do it, and I know people who do it well, and it's whatever, right? But to act like that's normal, like that's how you got to make money, I don't love it, okay? So little informative little lesson for you today without a lesson. There's no point, but informative nonetheless, I hope. So we're going to keep rolling. And if you're wondering why it may not be about sports betting, I still plan to do the reviews, the ratings, I still will talk about sports betting. But as far as me providing you with, here's what I'm betting, probably not. And this is a lot of the reason why. Okay, so take care. Merry 2025, and we shall see you next time. Sam Darnold, I'm telling you, you're getting a Sam Darnold video soon, maybe tomorrow. Stay tuned.